500 years after, to Exile by StoryMan-Jack. Logan stood and watched the nomads break through the patchwork gate as if it were made of rotted wood. "Run," old Gralt told him, his voice loud and harsh. "This is my time. You have much to do. Go, run." Logan pulled his sword. "No," he began, but the voice in his head, the one that named him, interrupted. "Run," the voice said, the inflection dry. "If you choose to fight, you will die." And yet the orphan boy who had become Logan refused to run. He couldn't run. He would not abandon someone who had been as a father to him. The Mexi's war paint bright in the firelight charged the two men. Logan tried to pull the sword back out of its sheath, but it wouldn't budge. "Run, or you both will die, and then his life will have been for naught," the voice told him. "What do you mean?" Logan asked aloud, uncaring who might see or what they might think of him talking to himself. "What do you mean his life will have been for nothing?" The voice spoke again, though it continued to be dry and unemotional. "He was born to find you," it told Logan. "His only purpose was to bring you up, to teach you how to live, to survive, to understand." "Born to find me?" "In fact, his entire order was founded for this very purpose, for him to find and raise you in a way that would prepare you for what is to come," the voice informed. "Run," the voice said, as did Gralt, in unison. He could smell the Mixies as they were so close, and he made his decision. He ran. It went against everything he wanted, everything that his blood told him to do. But there were so many. "I will find you in the next world," the old man called after him. "And remember, my time was near anyway." Those were the last words old Gralt said to him, the man who raised him, taught him to read, and gave him his sword. Logan didn't look back, even when he heard the cry of pain and loss that came from old Gralt's thready throat. The dire, breathy well told him the old man was done, gone, taken from the world. "What must be, the voice told him inside his head. "Yeah, thanks, since that literally means nothing coherent about this situation." Logan thought bad anger in his mind. Then he pushed his way into the low scrub and headed north for the river. And the voice was silent. "Well, just great," the young man thought. "Just go north." He sighed. He wouldn't be able to stop until he made it to one of the small lakes that surrounded the ruins of Dao. The trees that had grown up around the massive area covered the ruins, hid his flight. He had nothing other than the clothes on his back, the good rednecker-made boots he had traded for, and the sword. No food, no bow. He'd have to get creative to survive, if the Mexies didn't catch him first. Logan tried to plan as he moved, stepping stone to stone, ancient concrete slab to bit of concrete rubble, leaving as little a trail as he possibly could. The Mexies were said to be like the heirs of the spirit magic of the original Americans. Old Gralt had called them just the people. And like the Mexies, they had many different tribes. Logan didn't know all about any of it, but he knew the Mexies were the best trackers around. They roamed from near the urban settlements of the Yankers all the way up north, way down into the mysterious jungles of the Bloodlands, where the cartels fought constant wars upon one another. none of them ever gaining enough advantage to take over any given area. I just don't know where to go after I get to the nearest lake, he said to himself. And that depends on you, the voice said, startling him, making him look around. But it was inside his head, as always. And exactly what does that mean? Logan asked. You have a choice, the voice told him, as if to find an explanation Logan wouldn't understand. He paused. The voice paused. It is at once a very simple choice, and a choice that will shake the world one way or another. Are you saying you're God? Logan asked. I am, the voice said. There will be a book. And then it was silent again. What book? The Bible? That old book I know by heart because the old man taught me how to read with it? Logan asked. Call this book the Next Testament, the voice said, dryness almost giving way to a hint of humor. The young man stopped, listening into the woods around him. And just who is supposed to write this Next Testament, he asked. The voice once again went silent, so Logan moved on. He had to put as much space between himself and the tribe that had attacked the farm before dawn as he possibly could. Your choice? The voice asked after more than an hour of hard, slow travel. Keeping branches unbroken or mud free of prints took special care. One never knew if a Mexi tracker were within a mile or right behind you, it was said. What's the choice? Logan sighed as he stopped to navigate the best way across a broken creek that had spilled out of its banks sometime in the past and flooded the whole area, leaving sticky black mud. The girl or the disciple? The voice told him. What girl and what disciple? He asked, but the voice said no more. Logan decided he'd travel up toward the ruins to find a better way around the muddy ground. It would force him to backtrack a bit in the dark wood, but he didn't think the Mexis could be very close. They'd have taken their time to loot the farm before another tribe showed up to take it from them. Duck! The voice came sharp and quick, Logan's body working before his mind even registered what was happening. The buzz of an arrow passed right through where he had stood, where his heart might have been. Logan was on his feet in a quick half-breath. The years of training brought him up with this sword, gleaming in the air, knocking 2 more arrows away from him with the steel blade. Running footsteps came from the opposite directions, back toward the creek bed. Logan spun and swept the sword behind him, ducking his upper body low, and with his knees bent, pivoted into a spin, coming up with his blade, impaling through the Mexi man's chin, right up into his brain. The blade, as if razor sharp, slid in and out of the man's bones with no more than a mere whisper of friction. The Mexi's vacant eyes didn't even twitch when an arrow meant for Logan lodged in his chest. Logan dove behind a large live oak and waited, crouched low, sword at the ready. He watched and he listened. And finally, footsteps that were very faint. Yeah, they were there. He heard them. The patter of irregular jumping from stone to stone or bare patch of ground to another. The bowman was further away than Logan had first thought, but he heard only one of the men. Logan knew better. Mexi scout parties always had 3. No one really knew why, other than tradition, but he knew another was out there. So he just sat, and he waited. His mind started to slow down enough. His mind started to slow down, though he was indeed listening. A thought passed through his consciousness, almost outside of his concentration. Why tonight? It asked him. The footsteps drew closer, though faint, only yards away, and then stopped. Straining his ears, Logan closed his eyes. And no, the irregular running wasn't one bowman, but two men. He could hear their blended but distinct breaths, just a whisper of a difference, like two strings on a banjo rather than one, but the extra string was just a hair, almost silent. The trackers had practiced this, it was obvious, so that just the idea of three men would distract most of their prey, and at least weaken the focus of anyone on their guard, never knowing where the last man could be. It was a tactic they used, one man to flush, another to shoot, while the backup was protecting the bowman's back. And once a confrontation happened where the bowman was up close, 2 against 1 in close combat was almost a necessity. Why? Logan asked, his voice steady and firm as he could make it. Old Grault traded fairly with every Mex he tried. The Mexi's accent was harsh and guttural. At least what's up, the man said as if it were nothing. What lease? We were to take over the farm, given free and paid on this night, and an old man to sacrifice to the blood god. Logan's anger burned. And what did he give all that up for? Well, protection, the Mexi said. I've tried protected that man and the kid until tonight. If old Grault had made an agreement in good faith, Logan's anger would have been misspent. And that pissed him off. Just a little more. He tried to calm his heart rate, to cool his blood, when a thought struck him. And what was I in this deal? Logan said. You weren't part of it, Mexi admitted. But if we get 2 sacrifices out to Quetzal, then blessed be our tribe, yes? The man moved forward. Logan sprang then, his legs curled like spring beneath him and leapt. He went through the air in a dive right over the Mexi's head, his bow tied across his back. The other younger man knelt, sword in hand, though his sword wasn't really a sword, it was just an old hunk of metal pulled from some ancient building and cut short to serve as a cudgel. Logan plunged the sword down into the top of the bowman's head as he went over, but instead of getting lodged or breaking, it sliced right through the man's head and skull, coming out the back, severing the spine like a warm knife through butter. Landing in a roll, Logan came up facing the last tracker in a relaxed yet steady stance, his sword lowered in his hand and upside down, ready to block or slice anything the tracker could come forward with. Now that he looked at him, Logan thought the last Mexi couldn't have been much older than himself. What's your name, kid? My brother. He obviously scared the Mexi kid and then spat toward the bowman's body. Called me Sancho. Logan's mind relaxed, but his body was taut as a spring, ready for anything, though it looked scary relaxed. It was obvious that the pose was a trap to anyone, but some kid who had no business being out there wouldn't know it. Go, Logan said, giving the boy a chance to get out alive. Go and forget you saw me. Pretend like the others got lost. The Mexi kid shook his head. The Mexi shook his head, his body so tense that it might snap back on itself at any moment. Can't do that. The farmer. The tribe would know. They'll say I betrayed my brothers. Both of them were your brother? Logan asked, confused. The kid shook his head. Just what the 3 called them. when they put us together is tradition. Heh, that bastard isn't even Mexican. He nodded toward the body of the fallen brother without taking his eyes off Logan. It wasn't my blood, but he knew I wasn't ready and insisted the elders want our team. I think he wanted to kill me. Then go, Logan growled, trying to intimidate some sense into the kid. Go to another tribe or somewhere new. I'd rather not kill you. Just leave me in peace. And if I do, the Mexi asked, where will you go? What will you do? I guess I'm going to find a girl, Logan said, not really understanding that he'd made a choice, one that would change the course of the entire world and his life. Then I go with you, Sancho said. No, Logan began, but he stopped suddenly by the voice in his head. Yes. Now, just wait 1 second, Logan thought. Hey, Sancho asked. He threw the medal down. You don't look right. You look like you're talking to someone or something, brother. I'm fine, Logan said aloud, and then walked toward the side in the trees. Yes? Yes, the voice repeated. Why? You chose to go for the girl. You will need Sancho's help. Just avoid windmills. The humor was almost undetectable, but Logan felt it there. So you think I'm a delusional knight? Logan thought back, but let his body relax for real, placing his sword in its sheath. I'm out to rescue a damsel in distress who's actually a whore? Logan, you are the chosen. And you are listening to a voice in your head. You have a magical sword of so old that legends almost not, the legends of which are almost unremembered. And your sidekick is named Sancho, the voice said, and this time the humor was more than obvious. Logan moved to the bowman and collected the pack, the bow, and a half-dozen arrows that the man had left. Sancho, can you hunt? Logan asked. Don't you know nothing about Mexis? Sancho asked, taking his brother's boots off his buddy and dumping a bag full of coins out of the boot. Then he swapped boots out with the ones from the dead man. When Logan looked at him, the wary young Mexi shrugged. Bastard always got the best shit. You better look over Romo's stuff. He's more your size. And you need better stuff if we're traveling far. Romo, the guy who rushed me back there? Logan asked. Sancho nodded. Yeah. He paused before taking his brother's jacket, making sure there were no obvious holes in the leather garment. Say, what's your name, brother? Logan, he said, then shook his head. Logan, chosen. The Mexi's face grew surprised and then frozen before he broke out in a gout of laughter. Laughter that took so much control over him, Logan began to believe he was actually having some sort of fit or seizure. What's so funny about my name? Logan asked. Well, Sancho said, sitting on the ground trying to bring himself under control. An old woman who was said to be a descendant of the first people. You know, the Americans, they cast bones at my name day. It was special because I was the seventh son of my tribe boss. All right. Logan indicated he understood little while he went back to search the other body. She said I was to follow the chosen one. Sancho laughed. Oh, woman dropped dead right there. Mi madre said the blood god was happy. Logan chuckled. Blood god. And then he checked with the voice in his head. Are you a blood god? But there was no response. Sancho just smiled. I think it's funny. Chosen. I mean, maybe there's more to this world than what I see, but it's a joke for sure. Logan smiled. It made him think of an old mental exercise Geralt used to play on him and ask questions that had no answers. Hey, Sancho, what if you're lying down there somewhere hurt and all this is just a dream, just something your head made up? Everything is just made up around you. Well, then I just stay right here. Do my best not to wake up, Sancho said, looking up at the pile of trinkets he had taken from the one named Romo. Why? Hey, take his jacket, Sancho told him. It'll fit you and you'll need it later. That hood will help with the rain. Logan looked down at the trinkets, some gold and silver. Some were most definitely gems and not glass. Will they send more? Logan asked. Sancho nodded. But not until they wake up. They'll drink all night, or we'll have drank all... I don't know what time it is. Stupid trees. It's about 2 hours past midnight, Logan told the young man. Well, let's get to horses, and we can put some miles between us and them. Sancho was nervous. Logan understood now. That's why they'd been able to catch up with him so quickly. Horses. I guess I got what I needed, he thought. And though there was no response, he could feel a near smug feeling coming from somewhere in his head. We've got to get out of here quick, Sancho continued. No one leaves the family unless they're exiled. Well, my friend Sancho, I think we're all exiled. The end.